Have you seen this man?
Oh, it's Mack! Take him away! Take him away! Ah! 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 Ah!
Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Kyoto Bowl fam, it's the director. Chargers fans, waking up on Victory Monday on Raiders Week just hits a little bit different. Am I right, Bowl fam? Let's go. The Chargers take down the Las Vegas Raiders and what we'll call a smackdown, a Maniac Mack performance, the Mack attack and return of the Mack. I don't know what to tell you guys. That was one of the most historic performances I've seen from a defensive player in my time being a Chargers fan. Absolutely insane game. One that we actually kind of called a little bit. Not too much. We're like, hey, man, Khalil Mack maybe getting forgotten a little bit. Dude tends to go off versus the Raiders, and he did just that. Not only that, the Chargers rolled out there with some star power on Sunday. I think we got to see a version of Justin Herbert a lot of people were excited to see. Maybe there were some moments of struggle. Maybe there are signs of what the Chargers need to change on offense with that whole system. Maybe the injuries are starting to stack up a little bit, and Chargers fans a little bit worried about that. Well, guess what, baby? We got a bye week coming up in week 5. Chargers made it out of this game, going in, 2-2 into the bye week. I think we got a nice reset on the horizon. Chargers come out victorious versus the Raiders. It's a good day when you beat the Las Vegas Raiders. Should be a good, interesting episode today. We're going to talk about the positive and negative consequences of this week. More so what the Chargers did right in this game and how they can right the ship coming out of the bye week in week 6. Very interesting one. Let's relive the magic, guys. Before we do, hit us up with a like and sub if you guys do enjoy this Chargers content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot as well. Shout out to our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. If you guys have not yet checked them out, do so immediately. This is definitely the best way to enjoy the regular season. If you guys want to join up, sign up now. Use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $100. And there's usually some nice benefits in terms of additional picks you guys can make with those new signups. Now, let's get into this one, guys. Lights, camera, let's go, Mac. Action! Your Chargers versus Raiders week 4 post-game report. We're going to call this the Maniac Mack Smackdown. I don't know, man. This is one of the craziest things I've ever seen as a Chargers fan. The first segment, we're just going to jump right into it, man. The elephant in the room. A historic day for Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack, man, he's been flying under the radar, I would say, the past couple of weeks. I would say the start this season. Chargers fans wondering maybe the era of Mack is over. Enter the era of Tuli Tuipulotu, which of course I think is going to be the case later down the road. But for today, man, we knew Khalil Mack was going to come in here with his former team, the team that drafted him way back in the day, and want to put up some numbers. And honestly, I think maybe the Raiders had a bit of a hand in helping the Chargers accomplish that. Of course, Jimmy Garoppolo inactive this game. I think a lot of us were kind of hoping to see Jimmy G out there, considering the man has thrown 6 interceptions, didn't even play this last week, and still leads the league in throwing picks. We were kind of hoping to see Khalil Mack have a hand in forcing bad decisions by Jimmy G, but the Raiders decided not to roll him out this week, of course, still under concussion protocol. And instead of rolling out the veteran quarterback and Brian Hoyer they had on the roster, they decided to go with Aiden O'Connell, who we like to call Farva on the channel. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm super late to the party. During the live stream, he takes off his helmet. I was like, that man's Farva. That's Farva out there. I think the man's owning it, though. Okay, we can all agree to that. The dude has the mustache. I think he's leaning into it. Good for him. Either way, Raiders roll out with a rookie quarterback versus the Chargers defense, which if they do have a strength on this team, it's going to be that pass rush, man. Even with Joey Bosa sidelined this game, we still had Khalil Mack, evidently one of the better, edge rushers still in the league today. And then, of course, rising and emerging star, Tuli Tuipulotu. And I do feel like that combination, as well as the Chargers defensive system, which has been working towards the advantage of edge players in the last couple of weeks, really led to a tough situation for a day one start in a rookie quarterback's career. I do not envy an Aiden O'Connell. I'm sure you guys saw the opener. I had something up my sleeve. That is a new fear unlocked for Aiden O'Connell. That pass rush, more specifically, Khalil Mack, baby. And honestly, again, was Khalil Mack absolutely incredible this week? Yes, he was. Was the rookie quarterback holding onto the ball just a little bit too long? I also think, yes, he was. It all kind of led to this chemistry of a beautiful historic performance for Khalil Mack. I think the second all-time leader in sacks in a single game at 6 sacks. 6 sacks for Khalil Mack. If he had gotten one more sack in this game, he would have tied the all-time record with some player in the 90s from the Chiefs, which would have been very exciting, but wasn't very necessary for this game. He had already had a monster performance. And it's going to be one of those games as Chargers fans where we look back on 2023. We look back at this season, no matter what the result might be, and we look back on this game specifically. A lot of Chargers fans will say, hey, man, I remember that game Khalil Mack put up 6 sacks versus the Vegas Raiders of all teams. His former team that drafted him back in the day, and it was a magical moment. It was a magical moment for me, for all Chargers fans. Beautiful performance out there. Not only that, Khalil Mack also forced 2 fumbles in that effort, as well as a pass defended. This man was absolutely all over the place. Very, very memorable performance. Super excited for Chargers fans to finally see Khalil Mack living up to that potential. And before we move off the Mack topics, I think a lot of us, just living off the hype, we know what to expect from him. I think a big point that I want to make with Khalil Mack is sometimes, dudes, and we already saw this at the start of the season, a player maybe doesn't get off to the best start. They need a little time to get revving, to get going. Sometimes it has to do with age. Sometimes it has to do with opponents and consistency. And then you have that game. You have that game that gets things back on track. And I think we just witnessed that game for Khalil Mack. Is he going to go out there and have another 6-sack performance? I don't think so. I don't think anybody expects that from Khalil Mack. But is it going to drive this season back on track for number 52? I do think so. And I think especially with the help of that single game, obviously, I think the man's going to hit double-digit sacks once again in his career. He's going to be a big force for this team going forward. And I do think we're going to see more involvement and impact from number 52 beyond this game. Honestly, it'd be a great game for the Chargers, or a great season for the Chargers if Khalil Mack could continue that campaign. And honestly, with the way things are trending in terms of money and such, it might be a great closing for the chapter of Khalil Mack with the Los Angeles Chargers. If you guys are wondering, why in the heck the money issue next season is going to cause some ripples. Either way, focus on the now. Khalil Mack, absolutely fantastic performance. He's going to have an absolutely fantastic season with the Chargers, possibly getting that back on track this season. Very, very nice. Speaking of Warriors out there, man, next segment's called Herbert the Warrior. Herbert the Warrior, man. Now, of course, we don't have the photo of it right here, but I wanted to show this first one to bring up a big point, because obviously Herbert was battling an injury to end this game. He was still fantastic despite that. But the big thing I did want to throw out to the audience before kind of going over that stuff is what Justin Herbert started to do this game that I don't want to go overlooked. And I think it has to do with his guts and his decision making when facing a specific kind of coverage, right? It feels like at some point the Raiders did sort of have our number in terms of pass defense, and Justin Herbert, for whatever reason, the past couple of weeks has decided to start bringing it in and taking off on the ground, and it's working. It's working. We see the situation a lot with quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes, Dak Prescott, and of course the runners like Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields. These guys will take off for first downs, extending drives, extending games, extending plays, and ultimately a lot of times leading to more points. Justin Herbert in the era of Joe Lombardi didn't do much of that. And I feel like the addition of Kellen Moore has started nudging the young quarterback in that direction, saying, hey man, if you see yards in front of you, if the coverage is too good, let's take off. Let's also throw in a couple design QB runs in there. And I feel like not just getting the yards on the ground is what's impressive for me from Justin Herbert, but this dude is a tank. I think it was on this run specifically, Justin Herbert stiff-armed, man. I don't remember if it was Max Crosby. I don't remember what the defender was, but holy crap, man, that is a big boy. That is a big boy. And I joked a little bit on my stream. I was like, man, I remember when he was drafted. I got a little flack for it, but I was like, if you watch Justin Herbert and his physicality when he called upon it in Oregon, the dude did kind of have some reminiscent moves that were kind of, reminded me of like a white Cam Newton, right? He had that big body, that big frame, and when necessary, he could bury guys into the turf, right? It really felt that way in this game. Justin Herbert had to put the team on his back several times in order to move the ball, get first downs, and ultimately, I think he had 12 carries in this game, which is absolutely insane, and the 2 touchdowns. Justin Herbert is evolving into that quarterback that not just follows orders, not a guy that just, goes out there and says, yes, sir, aye, captain. He's going to go out there and he's going to be that leader of the team. He's going to take off. He's going to make sure that, these decisions are made intelligently. He's not going to put his body under duress if he doesn't have to, or in risk if he has to. If you guys watch all of the runs, I don't think there was any moment where I was like, ooh, Justin Herbert, you probably should have made a different decision there or gone down there. He did exactly what he needed to do to gain yards and protect himself. That was fantastic. The play that he got injured on was nothing like that. It wasn't a decision to run. So Justin Herbert, fantastic day. And then, of course, towards the end of the game, we don't have any details, I think, specifically on what happened quite yet. I think the last thing I heard that it may have been a small fracture in his middle finger. Again, don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure what happened. But Justin Herbert playing through that injury, we've seen Chargers quarterbacks in the past battle through injury with that warrior spirit, and Justin Herbert was just added to that list, man. Last season, with the fractured ribs or the cartilage or whatever's going on there, and in this game in particular, going into the tent, getting that brace on, getting that wrap, sometimes putting the glove on there, going out there and winning the game. Fantastic warrior spirit by number 10, man. Huge performance by him. Again, maybe not the air yards, didn't reflect that. Maybe even with the rushing yards, but 3 total touchdowns and keeping the game alive. And ultimately, with one hand tied behind his back, finding a way to win this game. That is the warrior spirit. Chargers got themselves a quarterback. Now, one thing I do want to point out, though, in terms of Justin Herbert, his play, the things that we've noticed from the Chargers as a pattern in the past in their offense, this next segment's going to be called This Team Misses Mike Williams, okay? And I don't know if this is the photo I wanted to use. Actually, go ahead and use this one. Let's use Keenan Allen. Now, a big reason why I want to show Keenan Allen in this Mike Williams segment is because there were talks about Keenan Allen and this campaign slowing down due to the absence of Mike Williams. And a big reason for that is that Mike Williams, that big target, that big, contested catch guy, that big playability guy, that spectacular catch guy, he did draw a lot of coverage. He did. Mike Williams made life a bit easier for Keenan Allen in terms of his availability to get open. And I don't know if we saw it this game. I don't know if it's an indicator going forward, but Mike Williams Keenan Allen wasn't quite as available as we're used to seeing as Chargers fans. I think he went under 50 yards. He did get the touchdown, right? So definitely not too bad. Saved a lot of fantasy days. But Keenan Allen, we're going to have to find a way to start getting him free once again, because this is the man that drives the engine of this air offense. Outside of Justin Herbert, of course, we need to get Keenan Allen open. But the biggest reason I'm going to say this team misses Mike Williams is for a couple of moments, I think, in the third quarter. I don't remember when these plays happened, but there was a couple of go routes back to back, a couple of straight line runs by the receivers on the left side on the sideline that I believe were designed for a different wide receiver. They were designed for Mike Williams, because Mike Williams in those one-on-one situations, he gives you a solid shot at coming down with those and those big first downs. Now, Justin Herbert backed up against his end zone or against his goal line. This guy, he takes the shot on the sideline first to Quentin Johnston. And Quentin Johnston, a lot of people will compare him to Mike Williams, saying, hey, man, he's 6'4", he's got the big body, he's got the catchability. He's not Mike Williams. That's not exactly his game. And the Chargers threw it up anyway, and of course the rookie wide receiver, tough catch to make it an arm right in the middle of his, catch radius in his chest, wasn't able to come down with it. Saw a lot of criticism behind that. Sure, there's things that QJ could have done to come down with that, but he's not Mike Williams. The very next play, we see another go route to Josh Palmer this time, and Palmer's unable to come down with it either. And that tells me that the Chargers, they're going to need to take some time to sort this out. This team has had Mike Williams in their DNA for the better part of the last decade. They got to sort out a new system, a new scheme, a new method to operate this offense under. Mike Williams is gone. He's not coming back this season. The Chargers need to find a way to pivot. I believe it's behind the speed of Quentin Johnston and Darius Davis. And, of course, I think Jalen Guyton, who's coming back after the bye week, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the method. That's the area you want to move in. But till then, the Chargers, evidently, they didn't have time to sort that out. They were still throwing passes that were meant for guys like Mike Williams. They need to find a new identity with that missing receiver. All right. So what about that identity? What's next for Quentin Johnston? It's going to be this next segment. What is next for Quentin Johnston? A lot of Chargers fans are very worried about this selection now. The Chargers investing a high capital pick in Quentin Johnston in the first round, of course. Going over guys like Zay Flowers, which some people might say is a better fit for this team because of that speed. You may not be wrong. You may not be wrong. But at the time being, I also want to remind Chargers fans and any fans of, Quentin Johnston in particular, now is definitely not the time to panic, man. Now is definitely not the time to give up on Quentin Johnston. We still don't know what the potential of Quentin Johnston is with this team going forward because I don't think this offense has revolved enough around him quite yet. I think this offense, if you were watching, the Kellen Moore scheme of things in the first couple of weeks, I felt like it was very evident to me at least that they were just going to ease this guy in. Sometimes Chargers fans hate that. We hate that. We want to see the rookie go out there and make some big things. You know what? The same situation was meant for Tuli Tuipulotu as well. I think we're supposed to ease him in, and the Joey Bosa injury has forced him into the limelight a little bit more. Now the same thing is about to happen to Quentin Johnston. The injury to Mike Williams is going to force him into more production. But the Chargers just have not had time to scheme him yet. They have not had time to adjust the offense to where we don't have Mike Williams anymore. We have Quentin Johnston. Do not use Quentin Johnston the way you use Mike Williams. It's not going to work most of the time. Quentin Johnston is not that contested catch guy, not that spectacular catch guy. This guy can get open deep. That was probably the biggest thing I noticed about him coming out of TCU. Wow, this guy's really good at breaking, that deep route. This guy's good at getting open in the deep part of the field. That's what I want to see. We need to turn Quentin Johnston into that weapon that teams fear out deep. Because when that happens, then you start freeing up guys underneath like Keenan Allen. But right now, Quentin Johnston, very much so unproven, very much so raw, very much so still needs to prove himself. I think the future for Quentin Johnston is bright, but I think this bye week, which once again is coming at a very, very good time for the Chargers, is going to buy the Chargers enough time to figure out what to do with him in terms of stepping into that role of wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2. Okay, I think he'll be fine. But another wide receiver I think Chargers fans are getting more excited about that's really stepping into a nice role is Darius Davis. Man, dude. Okay, so Davis is still young, right? He's still a rookie. He's still growing into, his skill set even as a returner. But my goodness, are the Chargers starting to wake up. Chargers saying, hey, man, we got the speed guy back there. There was a point where they lined this man up at H-back. And I was squinting. I was like, who is this running back? He's really, is that Elijah Dotson? Was he active this game? I don't know. I see the 2 over there. And then all of a sudden they hand it off. And here goes Darius Davis with the shiftiness, navigating his way through the coverage, and boom, runs off what is a 51-yard run. Holy cow, dude. That is a display of speed. That's a display of skill set, and that's a display of understanding the skill sets of these players. Kellen Moore maybe experimenting with Darius Davis in a similar way that the Kansas City Chiefs were with Tyreek Hill back in his rookie season. That's very reminiscent of what we saw back then. So very good to see the Chargers utilizing that speed. Hopefully, again, leaning into that identity post Mike Williams. I don't think it's going to be that contested catch anymore. It's going to come off the back of that speed. Quentin Johnston, Darius Davis, these guys, that's what you want to scheme around. Use that speed. And we saw a very good indicator in the very first game with Darius Davis that that's the direction they could be heading in. I like that a lot. As for the defense, let's give a nod to them real quick. Zont saves the day. Now, there was one play in particular that I hated. I hate seeing plays like this. They're so boneheaded, and they can cost your team victories in the end. And that was that body slam against the Raiders that Asante Samuel committed that resulted in a first down, and I think it almost ended up in points. I don't remember. It was just a very egregious penalty that you cannot commit as a defender. All right. That I was already like, Asante's been struggling in coverage a little bit. He's kind of in the wheelhouse right now. I'm not quite sure what's going on. He saves the day with this interception. And a lot of people point out that, hey, Zont should have had 2 other interceptions this game, sure. But sometimes, again, it's about finding your footing. Like we talked about with Khalil Mack at the beginning, man. This dude had to, bump himself into the right direction. And now I think he's going to be, not smooth sailing, but I think he's back on track. I think you'd say the same thing about Zont a little bit. I think Zont needed that first interception. I think Zont's back with that confidence. He should have kept running it. I'm going to hear people say, why didn't he keep running it? He definitely should have been kept running it. Either way, it did end up contributing to a Chargers victory here. So Asante Samuel, tip of the hat to him. Definitely a big impact this week as well. Another defensive monster. This segment called Tuli is a monster in the making. Monster in the making for Tuli Tuipulotu. Holy cow, man. Now, some people will take a look at the stat sheet and say, hey, man, Tuli didn't log a sack this week. Khalil Mack got all the action. You need to go back and rewatch those Khalil Mack sacks, man. I think in just about every single one of them, Thule was there in and around the area somewhere. He was there freeing up some space for Khalil Mack. Sure, Khalil Mack's monster effort led to a majority of those sacks, absolutely. But Tuli Tuipulotu, this guy's been super, super present in the Chargers pass rush since the beginning, since week 1. He's also been fantastic versus the run. I don't know, man. You were really hard-pressed to see a Chargers successful pass rush without number 45 being directly involved in it. And I think the Chargers got themselves a beast for the future. And I keep saying this. One day I'll get the stats in front of me. But Thule, he's among the league leaders in rookies in pressures. He may still be. I don't know after this week. But he's definitely a huge impact player for this team. And even without Joey Bosa, this Chargers pass rush was absolutely monstrous. And that does reflect towards the Chargers having nice depth at that position now with Tuli Tuipulotu. Not to mention Morgan Fox and those other guys in the interior. Beautiful work. Beautiful work. Now, I also wanted to give a tip of the hat to this man right here, number 20. Some of you guys will say, who is this man? Who is number 20? This is Dean Marlowe. This is the man that stepped in during the Chargers crisis at safety. A lot of you guys, I don't know if you watched the pregame video, but we had a huge situation on our hands. The Chargers had no safeties. Derwin James, Alohi Gilman, and JT Woods were sidelined with injuries and I think an illness this last week. And that left the Chargers to put some guys really low in the depth chart and sometimes not even on the team in charge of the secondary this week. Dean Marlowe and AJ Finley, right? I don't remember. Maybe it was Raheem Lane. Either way, this guy stepped up. There's a lot of instances where I was like, watch out. That's safety over. Like, that's a new guy. Who knows what we're going to get at that position with this particular player. He stepped up. He was great. He really didn't let anybody beat him. And he was very good in run defense as well and run support. I got to say, man, thank you. Thank you, Marlowe. Did an awesome job. I feel a little bit better about the depth at safety. All of a sudden, that was a big, big concern for me coming into the season. Like, what do we have at safety? What do we have at safety? Such a big, important piece of this defense. He bought us some time to get Alohi back, to get Derwin back, to get JT back. I think we're going to get all three of those guys back by the after the bye week, which is fantastic. So thank you, Dean. Thank you, Dean. 20's in the chat, man. 20's in the chat. Dude did stepped up and did a great job. Speaking of which, the defense has finally found their footing. Like we were talking about with Khalil Mack, I feel like the defense is finally starting to get it. A week 1 disaster versus the Miami Dolphins, that sucked. Week 2 definitely could have been better, but I think the Chargers started to kind of figure things out. This week, I do feel like things are starting to congeal a little bit. Some people will say we still gave up too much points to the Raiders. I think that the defense, for the most part, had a really, really good day. And I'm starting to feel that way more consistently. Like last week, I was like, they weren't perfect, but they weren't terrible. They weren't as terrible as what we saw in week 1. As long as we can keep that up, I think we're on an upward trajectory. We can start feeling a little bit confident in the defense again. All right. So credit where credit's due. Defense had a really good day. I would say decent day, a very decent day, very decent day. However, who did not have a decent day was once again the coaching. And a lot of people still upset. I feel like the fourth quarter decisions, especially, guys going for it, that 4th and a yard. I think they tried the brotherly shove. I don't know if you guys know what that is. That's that classic QB sneak that Jalen Hurts and the Eagles have been rolling out with the past couple of years. Then the Chargers tried that. Didn't work, obviously, in 4th and inches. The Raiders were able to get a stop there. A lot of criticism. Sure, I'm not a big fan in that, but I'm also not going to hold it against him too much. I guess that's something I would do, is still go for it in that situation. But it doesn't alleviate a lot of the other concerns. So I'm not going to say, we're going at bat for Brandon Staley, but at the same time, I'm not going to hold it against him for that particular decision. There are a lot of other things that we can nitpick a little bit, but the biggest thing that we need to figure out in terms of the coaching, in terms of this team and the momentum, is the fourth quarter drama. That's one thing I definitely need to hold against the coaching. What are we doing? I don't know. I'm gonna turn over in my grave a lot sooner than I was hoping with these fourth quarter, disasters. Chargers fans, the real ones, even when we were up 24-7, we knew it wasn't time to relax yet. I kept saying in the stream, please, Chargers, for just once, give me a game where we can just go in smooth sailing into the fourth quarter and feel good. No, it couldn't happen. We got to sort that out. Yeah, some of it's on the offense, too, with Kellen Moore. Man, we got to get that ball moving, step on their throats. That's a big part of why I wanted Kellen on this team. The dude was relentless. He just liked to stack the score. We need that version of him with the Chargers. The Chargers need that. Not because we're trying to be pricks and run up the score and be that team, but because we need to protect the lead. Somehow, some way, the Chargers, a 24-7 lead is not enough. We need more points. So the Chargers still yet to figure out the fourth quarter drama. Again, hopefully the bye helps with that. Lastly, screw this guy. Just need to throw that in there. You guys will see my reaction on Twitter and on here.
horrible thing. I will say, great for the Chargers sideline for coming to the aid of their quarterback. That was awesome. The team doctor's in there too, getting a lick in there. Jerry Tiller cannot do that. He's a wanted man at this point. Finally, an important buy. This is definitely the most crucial thing, I think, in this whole video. After coming out of this game 2-2, Chargers are 500 at this point. That's great. That's fantastic. We're looking good. This bye week is going to save our butts, dude. At the top of the season, I was super upset that we got an early bye. I was like, man, obviously you're going to want something closer to the middle of the season. Nah, man, week 5, this team was down bad with injuries. This team is having to readjust themselves in terms of system and scheme, missing Mike Williams, a couple of stars at this point. We need time to heal. We need time to regroup. We need time to reevaluate what we're doing with this system, with these players, right? I'm even hearing rumors at this point, man, that the Chargers may be pulling off a big trade here in the next couple of days, maybe in the next week or so. And it's, again, with a team that we have already pulled a trade off with in the last couple of years, and that's the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears might be moving Chase Claypool. I'll probably do a whole video on that later this week as we're going into the bye, maybe even sooner than that. And the Chargers apparently are in the mix for it. I don't have anything confirmed on that, but that would be interesting. Do I like that? I don't know. I'll give you guys more details on my thoughts on that whole thing in another day, another video. But things are moving. The bye week is here at an important time. We can heal. We can regroup. And I think the Chargers coming out of the bye into week 6, they could be a newly formed team in terms of now we got things cooking with Kellen Moore. Now we got things cooking with Quentin Johnson. Now the defense is finally starting to form a shape that resembles what we hoped it would be at the top of the season. Now we got Joey and Darwin and all these guys back. It should be very interesting. Well, guys, let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. The Chargers, absolutely crazy. Let's see some 52s in the chat. Let's see some 20s in the chat. Let's see some 10s in the chat. Monstrous day for Justin Herbert. Monstrous day for Khalil Mack. Monstrous day for the Chargers. Going into the bye 2-0. Feels great. Feels good. We don't have to stress out next week with the bye week. It should be a good time, man. So, guys, if you enjoyed what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. Thank you so much to everybody for joining us on the live stream. We'll be back, of course, for week 6. And it's going to be a good time, man. Chargers versus Cowboys, Kellen Moore's former team. We can expect some points exploding in that game. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. We'll catch you next time. As always, bolt up. Yes, I'm always repping. And stay frosty. Khalil Mack, have yourself a day, my friend. I will never forget this game.